Code monkey, get up, get coffee. Code monkey, go to job. Code monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say code monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write login page himself. Code monkey not say it out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Fritos. Code monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code monkey very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code monkey like you. Code monkey like you.
What's new, Dino Dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor. It's been way too long since I made a review. I apologize. I just got really sidetracked with a bunch of stuff, man, and then, life happened and blah, 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 blah. I can make all these excuses, but who really cares at the end of the day? These barely get any views in the first place. Okay, so, 2 movies I've been waiting for this year were both amazing. Tonight's film, if you can't tell, is Mortal Kombat, the 2021 reboot, remake, reimagining, remaster thingy, and it's amazing. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a flawless film, but by the Elder Gods, is it so much fun. To put it simply, the writing is just fast, frantic, chaotic fun. The characters are, for the most part, really good, and part of that has to do with the acting, which is almost fantastic across the board. It's got some fantastic fight scenes, some great digital effects, and some good practical stuff at the same time. It's just generally a really, really good movie, and an extremely well-made movie. What's not perfect about it? Well, for one, so, as the title says, there's going to be spoilers all the way through. This is your last warning. Just know this. If you like Mortal Kombat, there's a very good chance you will very much like this movie. That's really the best thing to say until you actually go out and watch it yourself. Because I'm going to be spoiling everything, or at least a number of things here. So let's go. First of all, a lot of the characters, their powers, or their abilities technically, are retconned into being magic, essentially. For example, Liu Kang's fireballs. I could totally believe that thing to be some sort of magic, but like Sonya Blade's rings that used to just be technology, it's now literal magic called Arcana. That's kind of weird, but I also kind of get what they were going for. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. The only 2 that I had genuine issue with were Jax and Kano. Jax, I really liked what they were doing with it. It begins with, obviously, if you've seen the trailer, he loses his arms because he's Jax and he has to lose his arms in every single Mortal Kombat adaptation. So yeah, he loses them, and somehow they give him, robotic arms. They kind of say it was maybe the White Lotus. It's never said. In the other movies, and the cartoons, and in all the games, it's been, oh, Special Forces did this, blah, blah, blah. But in this, he gets these really weak robotic arms, and then his Arcana is his metal arms, essentially the covering around them. That's really weird, but not as weird as Kano's eye laser not being an actual implant, but being his Arcana. I would probably have more of an issue with that if it wasn't for the fact that the guy who plays Kano, I have their names right here, if it wasn't for the fact that John Lawson is having the time of his life, and oh man, he is so entertaining to watch in this movie. Holy man. He was great. Most of the acting was great, but back to what the writing issues were. You may have noticed I've been ignoring the whole character of Cole Young, who's been somewhat controversial in the MK community, as they're being questioning why would they use him and not Johnny Cage. There's a pretty good reason for it, but whatever. I thought Cole was just good. Wasn't anything phenomenal, but he certainly was thankfully not just a bland, lifeless stand-in for the audience. They gave him a good personality. They gave him good scenes. They gave him good traits. He seemed friendly. He seemed likable, but at the same time, I liked his story. It just feels really weird. Like, this movie feels oddly rushed, and yet it feels like it goes by super quickly and you feel super entertained. What I mean by that is this movie at one point kind of says, like, hey, the Mortal Kombat tournament has not started yet, but it will soon, so we have to get you guys trained before then or we're screwed. It then just kind of seems like a lot of time passes, but they never really say, like, it's been a month, what are you doing? Like, it's been 3 days, what are you doing? They just kind of say, like, oh, we're running out of time, or oh, the tournament will be here by the next full moon. Like, there's nothing that you can kind of infer, like, oh, okay, time has passed, or maybe no time has passed. And this movie's pacing is really weird, because around the 50-minute mark, in a movie that's an hour and 50 minutes, roughly, it felt like barely anything had happened, but we also had a good chunk of the story done, if that makes any sense. And I kind of mean that in a negative way. Some movies, when you kind of go like, oh, wow, it's been an hour? That was quick. But you're super engaged. Like, for example, the John Wick movies. This one feels like a lot happened, yet nothing happened. If that makes any sense. And the movie's pacing is really weird. And that is not helped by the ending. Well, it's also not helped by the fact that 3 major characters, 3 major villains for that matter, die within like 5 minutes of screen time. I'll be totally honest here. Melina dies like an absolute bitch. Ryako dies like an absolute bitch. And Cabal dies like a bitch, but in a badass way. Yeah, they kill off these characters way too easily, and while it is at least entertaining, and I'll get to that in a minute, it feels kind of weird that they build up these characters so much. Oh, and Natara. Jeez, I almost forgot Natara was in this thing. She has like 2 minutes of screen time altogether. But they do make good out of what they have for that 2 minutes, I will give them that. So, like, you know, the story is not the greatest, but it's Mortal Kombat. I kind of came to expect that. It's not even about the tournament itself. Like, it's kind of almost a prequel to the tournament. I don't really know how to word it without giving away everything. I don't want to give away everything because I still want you to go watch this movie. So, I don't know. Let's move on. The other part that really, one of the other parts that really both helped and kind of hindered the film was the acting. So, Louis Tan, Jessica McName, I'm going to horribly mispronounce these, I'm sorry. Joe Taizum, Eked Brooks, Hiroyuki Sanada. Again, you know what, I'll just say their character names. The people that play Cole Young, Sonya, Kano, Bihan, Sub-Zero, Jax, Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Natara, Ryako, Cabal, Melina, they're all fantastic. In fact, I actually wouldn't mind having these characters be skins or voice packs in the actual MK11 game. They're really good at what they do, and they bring a lot of life, energy, and amusement to the characters. Especially Cabal and Kano. Now, they don't really tell you a whole lot about Cabal, aside from the fact that Kano betrayed him this time instead of whatever his origin is this time. I don't even know anymore, but he's not a cop. It kind of seems like they're going more along the MK11 lines if he was Black Dragon too, but then Kano betrayed him. I don't know, but he's got a great voice, great personality, great screen presence. The only 2 who I had issue with were Raiden and Shang Tsung. Now, that's not to say that they're poorly played. In fact, I think Shinhan as Shang Tsung was a great replacement for Kerry Tagawa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Tadanobu Asano, I really mispronounced that. The guy who plays Raiden, sorry, I'm trying to get this right, is good in everything but his voice. Like, here's the thing. Lord Raiden, in every iteration I've ever seen, is either played as straight-faced and confident, straight-faced and angry, somewhat jokey but still serious, but he's always kind of had a loud voice, excuse me, a commanding presence, and he doesn't really have that here. If anything, he sounds high half the time. Like, His voice is really low and kind of scratchy, and I get to kind of go on for like the whole like, I am the wise mentor of this land. Come with me and I can teach you sort of thing. But he doesn't really teach them anything. He just shows up, insults them, leaves, comes back later, yells at Shang Tsung, leaves. Like, he doesn't really do a whole lot. But really, I think if his voice was maybe just a bit louder even, like even in post, that would have been a lot better, because at least physically he does command a presence as Lord Raiden, and the guy who plays Shang Tsung looks fantastic, but again, his voice is slightly off. One sec. So the guy who plays Shang Tsung, Chin Han, again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He looks like Shang Tsung, he kind of moves like Shang Tsung, he's got like the whole like superiority, supremacist, like I'm just above you body language, like shoot. Is it Jason Alexander, the guy who played Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter films? Lucius Malfoy, he kind of always had this like, I'm just above you. And the thing is, you didn't really want to question it, because you're like, yeah, you know what? He is above me. Like, it felt like he was commanding a presence. But his voice, it's not like the smarmy kind of, look, just shut up and accept I'm better than you. It's almost whiny half the time. And it feels like he's trying to channel Kerry Tagawa, and that's a great thing. But I feel like some of the scenes could have had another take or two, maybe, to try and get something better. Now, granted, like, that's very minor, because he still is great as a character in this movie. He's a good threat, a good villain. Even if the ending, I didn't really like what they did with him, but whatever. It's just, I feel like there's something slightly off. Maybe it's just me. Now, another thing that was a mixed bag, excuse me, were the special effects. Because 90% of them looked amazing, and a good chunk of them were practical. Even a lot of the CG looked really, really good. From reflections to particle effects to the fight scenes, I'll talk about those in just a second. There was a lot that looked fantastic in this movie. The character designs were great. I loved Cabal's look in this. I'd say this is a spoiler, but it's in the trailer. Goro's in this movie for a few minutes, and spoiler, he dies way too easily. But he looks awesome. And he sounds pretty good too. He doesn't sound like a goofy dolt. He sounds like a commanding king, like with like what he did in MKX and MK9. No, he's not in 11. That was Shiva. Sorry, I'm all over the place tonight. But some of the CG is pretty noticeable, and some of it does look not the best. Nothing on the level where it would like take you right out of the movie, but it's clear that like, oh, this had a lot more work put into it than that shot. But again, they did blend a good amount of the CG at least decently, especially with, for example, Natara, who looks fantastic in this movie. And a lot of the gore, there's a good amount of it that's practical, and there is some CG blood, which it feels like they only used CG blood when they had no other choice, and I respect that. It feels like they wanted to, like, earn the R rating, and I certainly think they did. Now, the fight scenes. Man, are they awesome. Some of them are a bit too short in my opinion, and some of them just kind of don't have a lot of build-up. That may have to do with the editing. Again, just a minute. But the fight scenes that are here are some of the best I've seen in a long time, and I really hope we get a sequel because I want more of this. But I will say this, my favorite fight scene was probably Scorpion and Sub-Zero's at the end, and I'm not going to say much else. It's just really good. And, you know what else was fantastic? The music. The score itself has some kind of dull, kind of generic sounding music parts. But man, oh man, when they get to the fight scenes, they have some of the best music I've heard in a long time in a movie. And granted, a lot of the movies I've seen recently weren't that good, but still, the soundtrack to this thing is great, even if it is just for the remix of the theme song of the old one. Now, the other part that I would like to talk about is something kind of weird, and this probably will not affect many people. My idiot neighbor does that a lot. He's been arrested, pulled over twice, I think, actually. I don't know. One thing that kind of did bug me, and that's only because I've been taking courses on it for like 5 or 6 years now, was the editing. There's a number of shots when it kind of feels like they wanted to have like a cut from like one scene to the next. Like the scene transitions are weird. Sometimes they're really good, when it'll kind of end and the music will build and then cut, as if it's like naturally the end of that scene. Other times, it'll be in like the middle of a sentence or something, they'll randomly cut to a scene that it feels like you should have cut another like 10 seconds off, so the shot begins at this one point instead of back here and coming in. If that makes any sense, like... Okay. Let's say this bag of Chips Ahoy is shot B. This is shot A. It should probably begin more like this, but the shots tend to begin like this, so shot A goes to here, and then instead of going from here outward, it has to go here for a few seconds, then... Like, I don't know how to put it into words. But, yeah, like... The editing is off in just a few scenes, and it was pretty noticeable to me, at least. But I don't think the audio editing or any of that stuff, like, all the editing was really good, the camera work was really good, but some of the shots, it felt like they took more than they needed, but forgot to take that extra few seconds out. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. At the end of the day, though, I highly, highly recommend Mortal Kombat if you're a Mortal Kombat fan. Pretty much, if you like this franchise at all, you like the other movies, you like the games, you like the comics, you like anything about it, you'll probably have a blast. I'd say it's worth the $25 rental price, even though if I think that price is ridiculous in general, but you know what? I was happy I paid the $25, and I most definitely will be buying this thing on Blu-ray. I'm giving Mortal Kombat 3.5 Raptor Claws out of 4. Speaking of reptiles, well, I completely blanked on this, I'm sorry, again, I'm all over the place tonight. Reptile was great in this movie for the few minutes he was there. He looked really cool, I kind of hope they bring him back. Yes, he dies, you see it in the trailer. But, yeah, 3.5 Raptor Claws out of 4, aside from some small pacing issues and some editing stuff, I think this was a fantastic movie. Is it the best video game movie I've ever seen? Debatable. I think that one might still belong to Sonic the Hedgehog. But if you can see it in theaters, see it in theaters. If you can see it at home, see it at home. I had an absolute blast watching this movie, and I'm going to play some Mortal Kombat, and I'm going to watch Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge again. Because that was another great Mortal Kombat movie. But with all that being said, that's all the time I got for this review. So if you liked the video, well, leave a like and tell me what else you want me to review. Until next time, this has been the Media Raptor. As always, saying keep cool, and I will see all you dino dudes around. Later days.